Hello, we are going over the Brawler Cup meta for November. So, as soon as I complimented Silph for going back to the regular type-based meta, they come back out with one of these terrible pick from a very weird, diverse, nothing to, you know, help guide the player into picking a team kind of meta. So if you look at the meta, it is pick one Pokemon for each slot based on the weight of the Pokemon. So that is a mouthful as already. So if you look at the Pokemon that they permit, each slot is very frustrating to look at. Not only because they are random Pokemon, they might as well be random Pokemon slapped into a category. They slapped in very unnecessary, non-meta relevant, will never be played Pokemon into each category as well. So, for example, Archon, there's no way it is playable. Meltan, there's no way anybody's going to use that. Klefki, Mesprit, stuff like that. And then you look at the other categories. Who in their right mind will ever use a Shadow Mewtwo? Who in the right mind will, pick Slaking? Things like that. As if it wasn't frustrating enough to look at this meta, they had to add that stuff as well. And then there's another problem. There are very many XL Pokemon, including Drifloon, including Grimer, including what else do we see here? My eyes are drifting, but you get the point. And then there's a couple Elite TM Pokemon required in here as well. It's a very frustrating meta to look at. So, how do we start? Same thing. The best thing we can do is to eliminate all the bad choices, right? So this was what I did on stream. I crossed out all the Pokemon that shouldn't be touched by anyone with a red line. The ones that I've not crossed out with a red line doesn't mean they're good. It just means that I expect to see maybe one in every tournament at least, or it is potentially viable. Things like maybe Machop down here, maybe a Magnemite. That doesn't mean they're good. That doesn't mean they're going to be used. That doesn't mean they should be used. But it is possible to face. It can be a problem if you don't consider them while building your team. And then all of the green circles are the ones that I've kind of picked out of PvPoke based on ranking, based on how I think the Pokemon may perform in the meta. And that's kind of where we started to build our team around. So for each slot, you'll notice that the rankings will differ immensely. Slot 1, rank 22 Castform, jumps all the way to 50s to 60s. Rank number 2, you have a lot of high ranked Pokemon, but Whiscash is very bait dependent. Slot number 3, another really good category with a lot of versatile Pokemon, but that's also because it is one of the biggest categories of Pokemon you can be choosing from. Number 4, couple good Pokemon, immediately starts going downhill from there. Slot number 5 will actually be a very important slot because of the primary grass types being in this slot number 5. And then slot number 6, small category, several high ranked Pokemon, but they drop really quickly. Most of these Pokemon are actually Steel, Rock, anti-flyer in nature. There you have a couple ice types, and then you have a couple other interesting options as well, but this is the smallest category. So when building in this meta, I recommend you start from slot number 6 because of how small it is. I think a couple good picks would be to start with Steelix. Lapras would also be a really good one because there are very few water type Pokemon that can potentially flip a matchup against a grass type Pokemon. And Lapras, I believe, in the entire meta, might be the only one able to do that, other than Dugong. But as I was mentioning, Dugong is in slot number 5, which is where all the grass types are. And Lugia is another interesting Pokemon that I expect some play out of. So you will see on the top right side of my screen, that is the team I ended up building on stream. I started with Steelix because while I was looking through what to start a team with, I started with slot number 6 because it's the smallest, it should be the easiest to pick from, pick the most solid Pokemon, and I went with Steelix is also something I'm comfortable with. Went on to build a double water team where one is okay against grass types, and then double flyer team where one or actually both have a chance to defeat steels, have a chance to defeat rocks, and then filling the rest of the team with a solid grass type that beats other grass types and actually a second solid grass type, but this one beats fighting types. So it's really hard to identify which role each slot will be because you can kind of mix and match. You could technically pick a grass type from slot number 1 with Jumpluff, or you could pick from slot number 5. But to kind of quickly run down what I expect from each slot would be slot number 6 is where your tank is probably going to be. Slot number 5 is probably where your grass type is going to be. This is going to be your anti-grass grass type. 2 of them are bad against fighting type Pokemon. 2 of them are good against fighting type Pokemon. But you can, like I said, pick from other categories. But the most important thing about these grass types is they all are kings of grass types. Tropius, Venusaur, Ferrothorn, Abomasnow, they all have attributes that make them superior to other grass types. So if you were to pick a grass type, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't pick one of these 4 instead of something else. The middle weight, slot number 4, has a very interesting slot. I don't think any of them are extremely powerful, but there are very unique Pokemon in here. I think Dragalge, Empoleon, and Alolan Sandslash will be some of the bigger players from this category. There are no shortage of fighters in here as well, so if you're looking for a fighter, it's possible to put them in here. Speaking of fighters, there's not actually too many fighters within the meta. Most of them are in this category, and if you're looking for counter users, you got 1 or 2 in slot number 3, 1 in slot number 2, or something similar to that. So slot number 3, you're gonna have the choice of the highest ranked Pokemon, Diggersby, but that's going to be XL. Otherwise, you have a choice of, generalists for the most part. You're going to have Beedrill, which has really good coverage moves. Frostlass is another good generalist. AWAC, another good generalist. Vigoroth and Politoed, spammy as well. Featherweight, this is, I think, where you would be looking for a lot of your anti-grass, a lot of your anti-water. If you want something that does both, you can pick Dragonair or Drifblim or Talonflame if you're I guess water would be a problem for Talonflame, but Talonflame has some pretty good play, especially against something like Whiscash, which would have to land Blizzard, stuff like that. And funny enough, Whiscash is actually ranked pretty high, but the problem is obviously you have to bait. And then slot number 1 would be a bunch of cast forms and a couple of very, very powerful Pokemon with unique abilities. Problem is, as much as I would like to recommend Jirachi, it doesn't have great coverage with confusion in the meta. And then Jumpluff is an inferior grass type against essentially all of slot number 5's grass types. So if you're looking for a poison type, this will actually be one of your only chances to pick a poison type that isn't a grass poison as well, or a bug poison. A water poison would actually be a very interesting Pokemon to go for. And then cast forms are usually pretty solid. It's really hard for me to tell you what to start off with and what you should move on to after picking one Pokemon, but always the same thing is start with something solid and just kind of work your way through with types, because there is no easy way to build in this meta, no easy way to build this Silph format without the use of PvPoke and without tearing your hair out.